the church of bread, holy bread. I am your priest, and this is my dough. Welcome to my bread cult. Hallelujah. Right then, what is this? What is this, people? This is the Good Food Test Kitchen's ultimate focaccia. Golden, chewy, full of flavour, and absolutely worth every hour it takes to make. Focaccia is one of the best breads to make at home, but the difference between a good focaccia and a great one usually comes down to one thing: time. Honestly, it's like a work of art. Quick focaccia can be nice, but with that depth of flavour, chewy open crumb, crisp golden edges, and proper bakery-style texture, you need to slow things down. It's simple food, but every step matters. Let's make it. To make our ultimate focaccia, we need to start the day before with our pre-ferment. I'm going to mix 200 grams of strong white bread flour, half a 7-gram sachet of fast action yeast, and 200 grams of room temperature water. Now this is a pre-ferment. This is sometimes called a poolish, and it's equal quantities of water to flour. Now both of these things add flavour, because when it comes to baking, time equals flavour. So I'm going to mix the two together just to hydrate all that flour. When it comes to bread making, you want things to be precise. I mean, they don't have to be too precise, but precision really does help, especially when you're working with quite wet doughs, and a little bit of water will make a lot of difference. For your precision, you want to weigh your water, not measure it in a measuring jug. Why? Because that is a lot more precise. And this is a happy law of science, not other liquids, because they have different density, but when it comes to water from the tap, the same millimeters will relate to exactly the same grams. So I need 225 millilitres or grams for this dough, and I have weighed it to 225 grams. And that's going to sit at room temperature for 24 hours. So this pre-ferment is basically like cheating a sourdough starter. The yeast is going to do its thing, it's going to become super lively, and it's going to die down and turn sour, and that's just going to add loads of depth of flavour to our dough tomorrow. Commandment number 1 from the Church of Barney's bread: time equals flavour. The longer you take, the more flavour your dough is going to have. It doesn't matter if it's sourdough or a yeasted dough, time equals flavour. You keep that dough for longer and you're going to have more flavour, and it's going to be more digestible. When it comes to bread baking, you want to use a strong flour. Why do you want to use a strong flour? Because strong flour has a higher proportion of protein, and when you add water to protein, you end up with gluten, and gluten is what's going to give you that stretch. So we have our 400 grams of strong white bread flour, and then we have our pre-ferment. So first I'm going to add my water to the pre-ferment, which is just going to loosen the pre-ferment, and then I'm going to add that to my flour. So the temperature of this water is at room temperature. Now when it comes to bread baking, temperature's like your gears. The colder things are, the longer they're going to take. The warmer they are, the quicker they're going to take, which is why we put the dough in the fridge to slow ferment. If you wanted to cool things down, if this was a really warm summery day, I would use cold water. But as this is just a normal day, I'm just using water at room temperature. I'm just going to mix the two together just to dilute that pre-ferment a bit. We're just going to add our flour and the rest of our yeast, and then we're going to mix this into a dough. Now when you're doing this bit, this is really important, you're not left with any dry bits of flour in the bowl. All we're trying to do is mix the dough. The dough's going to look shaggy and rough anyway, but you need to make sure all of that flour is hydrated. This dough is wet, and that's exactly what we want. Water is doing a lot here. It hydrates the flour, it starts the gluten development, and it helps the yeast move through the dough and create steam in the oven, which helps to give that focaccia a lovely open, airy texture. The amount of water in a bread dough is called hydration. Higher hydration means a wetter dough. Wetter dough can feel trickier to handle, but they often give you a lighter, more open crumb. Focaccia is a brilliant place to start with high hydration breads because it's baked in a tray. You don't have to worry about the shape of a perfect loaf or worry about it holding itself upright. The tray does all the work for you. So what I want you to do, guys, is I want you to look at the texture of this dough as it is now. This is a really shaggy, sticky mess. It's not elastic at all, but we're gonna leave that for half an hour. We're gonna let the water do its thing, turn the protein in the flours into gluten, and in half an hour's time, you're not gonna believe the difference. So now we're going to scatter 10 grams of fine salt over our dough. Now we're adding the salt after the first rest because salt slows down the gluten development, and by holding it back, we give the flour and water a head start. The dough becomes smoother, stretchier, and easier to work with. So our salt is going over, so our 10 grams, and then we're just going to get a wet hand and we're going to scrunch that through the dough. Now remember I showed you the dough before and it was a shaggy mess? Look at it now. It's smooth, it's elastic, and all of that, a simple trick like simply holding back the salt for half an hour makes a massive difference to that gluten development. Now that's ready to rest until we need to give it our first stretch and fold. So this is our dough, which is relaxed and it's done its thing, and now we're going to stretch and fold it. Now, the reason we're going to stretch and fold is to build up the gluten, and there seems to be a lot of controversy about whether to knead or whether to stretch and fold, but the difference between the two is the difference between your dough. A stiff dough can't stretch and fold, and a wet dough you can't knead because it's too wet to knead. So with this dough, which is a very high hydration and which is actually quite a sticky dough, it's easier to stretch and fold and build the gluten up that way than it is to knead it. You could do this in a tabletop mixer and simply knead it, but I like to get my hands in and I like to build that gluten gradually. Now we don't want to add extra flour to the dough because extra flour is going to change the recipe. So this is easiest done with a wet hand. So I have a bowl of water, I'm going to wet my hand, and then the dough's not going to stick to my hand. And then we're just going to knock back the dough. And you see, if I was trying to knead that dough on the surface, it'd be really sticky and it'd stick against the dough, which is why it's better contained in the bowl. And then to stretch and fold, what we need to do is we need to take our dough, stretch it onto itself and bring it back round. Another way of doing this, which I quite like as well, is to pick up the dough with my wet hands, nothing stick it. It's just to fold it back round onto itself until you have a smooth surface. And then you sit that back in the bowl and leave that for another 20 minutes, half an hour. And we're just going to do that a series of times until our dough is really lovely and springy. So this is our final set of stretch and folds. This has already had 2 sets of stretch and folds, and you can see, remember what I was talking about before? That light that's come through the dough. It's lovely and elastic. Just going to wet our hands, lift the dough onto itself and stretch it back round. As before, if you want to lift it up, just bring it over onto itself like this. Back into that ball of burrata or that mozzarella ball shape. So that is ready to go back into our bowl, and we're going to leave it for 2 to 3 hours to rise by about 40%. Now take a deep baking tray, roughly 20 by 30 centimeters, and drizzle in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Now don't be shy here, a well-oiled tray is exactly what you're after. It stops the dough from sticking, but it also helps give you that focaccia base, which is crisp, golden, and almost fried underneath, and that's one of the best bits. So I'm scraping the dough. You can see, look at the structure of that. I mean, that is elastic. Can you see? That's what you got from time. This is a beautiful, beautiful dough. Let me show you something. You can tell how well dough is when you can see through it. So you can see it's almost transparent. That's called the window pane test. And that window pane test means that your bread dough is ready. And the tray is well oiled. Bring it round onto itself. Into a nice sort of mozzarella ball shape. Smooth side up. And there we have our baby. And we're going to put our baby to bed in the fridge for 24 hours is beautiful, 48 hours is going to be unbelievable. But if you don't have the time, honestly, a couple of hours outside of the fridge and you're still going to have beautiful focaccia. Right guys, we're using roasted garlic and rosemary here, but focaccia is a blank canvas. You can keep it as plain as you want for sandwiches or treat it like a pizza base. Stud it with olives, scatter it over cherry tomatoes or finely sliced red onion, or use herbs, chilies, anchovies, whatever you like. The dough is a foundation. Once you understand that, you can take it wherever you want. Right guys, we're going to roast our garlic. So we're going to need to heat the oven to 230 or 210, which is the same temperature that the focaccia is going to go in. But while the oven heats, we're going to roast our garlic. Whether it's focaccia or for pestos or for anything you want to put it through, but this is the easiest way I know to roast garlic. We're simply going to halve a whole bulb of garlic, and then we're going to put that in some foil with a sprinkling of sea salt, a drizzle of oil, then we just bring this up into a parcel, pop that on the tray, and that goes in the oven for 25 minutes to half an hour, and you have beautiful roasted garlic. And this is how you dimple focaccia. Firstly, we're going to gently stretch the dough so it fills the tray evenly. Look at those, look at that, look at that. Oh my goodness, right. That is the sign that your bread has proved properly. I mean, that is what all the time and love is about. You don't get beautiful air bubbles like that in an hour or two. That is where it's at. Unfortunately, that will burn when it goes in the oven, so we do need to pop our bubble, but that is the sign that our focaccia is beautiful. So when our dough is filled in all the corners, I'm just going to get a bit of oil on my hands so they don't stick to the dough. And then what we're doing here is we're going right in. I think people think of dimpling as this sort of tickling of this bread, sort of getting little bits. Actually, with the dimples, you want to get your fingers touching the bottom of the pan. That's the whole point of this, is to actually touch the bottom of the pan. And this is the double dimple. Once we've dimpled the dough, we're going to go over with about a tablespoon of olive oil, like so. And then, you know, this is a blank canvas. Add what you want to this. Cherry tomatoes, bits of feta, bits of cheese, totally up to you. But we've got this gorgeous, sweet, roasted garlic. Oh, and don't be worried about this, you know, roasted garlic is infinitely sweeter than raw garlic. Once you cook garlic, it becomes really mellow and beautiful. And then we're going to get some rosemary leaves. So the whole point of dimpling is to get those ingredients deep into the dough so they flavour the dough and they don't burn when they go into the hot oven. Rosemary just on the surface is going to burn and go black, but rosemary pressed deep into it, it's going to give it shelter from that hot oven and really flavour the dough. So when you're adding ingredients, you want to feel the surface of the pan. So you're actually trying to get that ingredient onto the bottom of the pan rather than in the focaccia. Those beautiful air bubbles, that's gorgeous. I think air bubbles that sort of size are really nice. They catch and they get this sort of skin on them, they go super crispy. So I'd leave anything that size, but that other one was crazy. Tablespoon of oil. Then we're going to sprinkle over a teaspoon of crunchy sea salt. It's going to give it a beautiful salty crust, but it also adds some crunch to the crust of the focaccia. And that just goes over like so. Honestly, it's like a work of art. And there is our focaccia ready to bake. Honestly, look at that. So that's had 30 minutes in a hot oven. I mean, it's really tempting, you just want to tear into it now, but that does need to sit for a good 30, 40 minutes before you cut into it. Warm's fine, hot's not good with bread, but that is absolutely beautiful. Honestly, is there a better smell than the smell of freshly baked bread? And this mixed in with that roasted garlic and that rosemary is just something else. Now listen to this. It sounds hollow and it is gone. You can see it's practically fried in that olive oil. It just looks incredible. Look at that. This is what the time gives you. That pre-ferment brings depth, the long proof brings flavour, the stretch and fold brings structure. Open crumb, crisp base, golden top, little pockets of sweet roasted garlic. The oil gives you that almost fried edge, and those dimples hold everything together. That's so good. Focaccia nuts. Honestly, that salt crust, the chew on that focaccia. I think the problem with a lot of focaccias is people think it should be this soft, spongy bread. It needs to have bite, it needs to have chew, and this, you can really tell the amount of time that's been taken over this focaccia. I truly think this could be called the ultimate. For more ultimate recipes from the Good Food Test Kitchen, subscribe to the channel and we'll see you for the next one. Oh my goodness.